Well, new coach, new general manager. The Chargers hit the jackpot. Cost them an unbelievable price to execute this. Jim Harbaugh introduced as head coach. They get a payday, and they get a power play coach and general manager. Joe Hortiz comes from the Baltimore Ravens. This is all part of the Harbaugh football family. Hortiz was general manager, assistant general manager, director of player personnel for 9 years in Baltimore. They have an unbelievable track record. He learned under Ozzie Newsome and Eric DeCastro, the two very successful general managers of the Baltimore Ravens. His draft record has been superior. He knows how to scope, cite, and sign veteran plug-in free agents. In essence, there's a resume that this general manager has that not many other general managers have had. So you take what he's accomplished, and we know what Jim Harbaugh has accomplished. And they're not afraid to gamble on veteran players, one-year rentals, etc. Harbaugh, of course, got the massive payday. I'm led to believe $12 million base salary. Now there's a report there might be an additional $3 million per year in bonuses if he gets the Chargers to the AFC Championship game or an appearance in the Super Bowl. He was given the power to have input into the hiring of Hortiz as general manager. He was given the green light to clean out the assistant coaching offices. That's why Kellen Moore is gone and gone to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that they've really hit the jackpot with new coach, new leader, and obviously new general manager. Now, once we get beyond the Thursday, aren't we glad to be here press conference with the Chargers on Friday morning at breakfast, then they have to start the real business of football. They are $55 million over the salary cap. They got decisions that have to be made on some really popular and high-paid players. I don't know. Would you fire Joey Bosa? His cap figure is going to be $35 million this coming season, has not been able to stay on the field. They gave Mike Williams a huge extension. His cap figure is $30 million, and he's had 3 major injuries in about 5 years, can't stay on the field. The defensive tackle, Austin Johnson's got a cap figure of $30 million. He came from the New York Giants a couple of years ago. He's not a Pro Bowl player. I don't confuse him with Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs. You got the Austin Eckler situation. So once we get beyond this hoopla of the Thursday press briefings on Friday morning, they got to start working on fixing the roster. Lucky for Hortiz, they will pick 5th. They will pick 37th in the first 2 rounds of the draft. And in Baltimore, his people, working with John Harbaugh, had a history of making deals, trading back, stockpiling assets. So they could take the 5th pick, flip that, and maybe wind up with a 1st and a 2nd or a 1st and a 3rd. You don't want to go too far down in the first round, but you can stockpile assets. So right now they're sitting at 5 and 37. So once we're done with claps and press conferences and everything is great, when you have the first cup of coffee Friday, they got to dive in and talk about fixing a really flawed roster. John?
Well, what was Telesco's biggest fault, his biggest problem that screwed this whole thing up that required a new guy to come in?
Just the reality that they gave him 9 years or 11 years. His record was 86 and 95 as general manager, making decisions with Dean Spanos. Drafted a lot of athletes. They made the roster collectively much better, but they could not stay free of injuries. And young players didn't develop. Now, they found players who could play. Austin Eckler, that's the Division II unrecruited pick that they wound up, and he did very well. But if I had any critique, it was that Telesco was never bold. Bold in terms of that free agent out there, I'm going to sign that guy. This guy might have a bit of a dark side to him. I might take a flyer on a 1-year or 2-year contract. He never, ever did that. They wanted good players. They wanted good citizens. Sometimes you have to have bleeps as part of your roster.
Bleeps.
who can play the game at a different level. They never, ever did that. So that was my only gripe, my only critique. But they did fix the roster, and they got Justin Herbert, who kind of fell to them. So I just think they did a good job. Obviously, off the field, there's going to be some changes. They've already fired the strength and conditioning coaching staff. Harbaugh's bringing his people from the University of Michigan. We know what Harbaugh did in Ann Arbor. Develop quarterbacks. He created packages offensively, defensively, and he taught toughness.
Mhm.
So there's some of the dimensions that were not part of Charger football in the Telesco, John Spanos era. So there'll be some structural changes how they approach the game. They have to go get some more players, though, that would fit the mold of what Harbaugh wants. So what do you think about the hires?
I think it's good that they're bringing in guys that are all part of the Harbaugh world, and that fits. So, this is a new era. Well, we're going to find out. But I'm curious. You say they have the number 5 pick. If you're the Chargers, which position is of the greatest need? Is it a running back? Is it maybe a linebacker? What do you think they really need the most?
Draft projections say Brent Bowers, star tight end, Georgia. That's awful high to pick a tight end at number 5.
Mm-hmm.
But once we go through the bloodletting because of the salary cap, if there's no Bosa or if there's no Austin Johnson, that's 2 starters in your defensive front. You may have to spend that 5th pick to go get the right defensive player that's a difference maker up front because their defense has not been great. So I would say, what do you do with the roster 1? And then item 2 will be, do you have to replace people because of what you did with the roster? That would be your second choice. And we do have plenty of time for them to sort out. Is the tight end Bowers from Georgia the right guy, or do you need defensive studs and linebackers or pass rushers or defensive tackles if indeed we hit the eject button on Joey Bosa? The one thing we know for certain, they can't keep all these $30 million a year cap figure guys on the roster. There will be some guys exiting, which adds to the challenge of what Harbaugh and Hortiz are going to have to do. But they do have Justin Herbert, and that's a pretty good building block to start with.
Yeah, so we'll see where this goes. But those, they're kind of like what Khalil Mack too, and Mike Williams. I mean, all these guys, they can't make them all fit on the roster.
Exactly. And the other problem is structurally, I can negotiate down your contract to give me a little cap relief, but that means kicking the can down the road. You still have to pay the credit card bill.
Yeah.
If you're not going to have Khalil Mack, and he had an unbelievable season, I don't think he's in jeopardy. But you can't restructure him now, because if you do, next year's cap figure might be $42 million or $45 million. You still got to face the cap realities either today or a year from today going forward. So I'd hate to see them blow Bosa out, but I'm sorry. Bosa can't stay on the field. He's always hurt. And that's like a 35, 36 million cap figure. And as much as I like Mike Williams, he can't stay on the field. And they had to pay him that price because he was coming off a good season when he was healthy, and now he's been hurt again. Like I said, I think 3 major injuries in maybe a 4.5 year span. He's not worth $30 million. So they're going to have to change some of the structure.
Yeah.
Okay, we go from Charger football, and if you're a Charger fan, what do you think? Give us your evaluation. Harbaugh versus and Hortiz, linking with Justin Herbert. We go from that